So walk us through Matter More Media. What is it that you're hoping to achieve with being unencumbered from a big agency holding company and being able to kind of run your own show? What are you trying to do with Matter More?
So, newsflash, I've left Publicis after 11 years, and I have you to thank for introducing me to Publicis, and I got to step into your big shoes, and it was a wonderful 11-year ride. Nothing but gratitude. I learned from some of the best people in the business, and it was a good time for me to reevaluate where I was in my personal career and really where the ecosystem was, and to reflect on what motivates me. And on that reflection, I came to the conclusion what I have really been trying to do through that 11-year journey, and even a little further back at my tenure at Wink, an interactive television company that was collecting 7 million set-top boxes, second-by-second viewing, and all the ideas I had with what we could do with that. It was a good time for me to reflect on what was I doing and why was I doing it. I think the key question to me was, if I'm going to create my own company, why am I doing it? And it really came down, and not to be cute, it really came down to my passion is about making the media matter more. So it was a simple choice of a name of a company, Matter More Media. But that was what has driven me through this 15-year journey. And every partner that I've met, many in the room, and when I would listen to their offering, I would take it through the lens of how was I going to make the media matter more? Really from the consumer standpoint, how are the ads going to be part of the value equation? And how can they become more relevant so they matter more? How can I help advertisers talk to those consumers in a way that matters more? How can I help programmers or people who contain some of the best content we have to offer, which I believe in and love television, whether it's education or information or just pure entertainment. I want that model to continue to exist and to exist for everybody. And I believe one of the key pieces of the monetization of that is advertising. So through my 15-year journey, I've watched television be able to become accountable. I've been fortunate enough to place 250 addressable campaigns in the last 3 years with some of the top advertisers, in the world, and really learn about, the data that it takes and the practice that it takes to be able to do that. So it was a good time for me to step back and say, why? Why would I start a company? And I think it's really based off of that passion that, I'm excited to be on week 3. And I think I've made the right decision because I do see a lot of opportunity in the marketplace.
And yet, after all that ground laying and work and building and addressability, we're still in a world of television buying that is, 1-2% maybe of all television expenditure is in this data-driven, data-targeted, data-indexed, addressable space. Maybe it's a little bit bigger if you throw in broadly data. Is that enervating, or do you see that as just bring on the next 98%? I mean, it's been a long time just to get to that 1 to 2%. Are we going to be at a 4 to 5% in a couple of years, or is this more velocity?
You haven't asked me what my new company does.
I will.
So
we got 9 minutes left after this.
Okay, so I would completely agree. Although I feel like there is a very good business. Ask Mike Bologna. Ask my former position. There is a good business to create off of just addressable television, just the 1%. And I do see that 1% growing. And I do believe in the long term, all television is digital, all digital is addressable, and all addressable is programmatic. That's the end state. So how do you work through the transition? So at Matter More, we're going to do more than addressable television. I do believe that is a great place to start. And it really depends on the client. There's a huge mid-market out there to go get. My favorite example is Peloton. I'm a Peloton consumer. It is a $2,000 bike that I have in my basement, and I have a $30 monthly subscription to live and on-demand spin classes whenever I want to do them. So this is a really high ticket item with a fairly small niche audience. They know exactly who I am. They delivered the bike. They're sending me a bill, right? And now I see them. They're VC backed as well, so they've got people who are like, if I'm going to give you money, I need to know that it works. And then all of a sudden, I see them, on the Cubs World Series doing DR, which is, I don't think, right for their brand. I think, an advertiser like that is perfect for Addressable. They're not what I've serviced over the last few years, billion-dollar advertisers or $100 million advertisers. I think that there is a really interesting group to go after that may be VC-backed, definitely below somewhere between the 5 and 15% incident size, and somewhere between 10 and $20 million of spend. But if I can find an advertiser like that who has a $100 million spend, I could tell you the first place I'm going to start to turn to is some of the people who have taken inventory that is reasonably priced and put advanced data sets on them. So one that comes to mind is Cadent. So if I can extend my addressable budget, to the same target on really good inventory that happens to be under monetized by the ecosystem, and I can buy it in a cost beneficial way to the advertiser, extend there. Keep extending out to online video, keep extending if what the client is going to want once I get some, if the client wants to go to search and display, I can do that. But I think really the opportunity, at least, right out of the gates that I'm going to try and focus on is some of those new to television advertisers.
So it almost sounds like you're twisting the model a bit and actually focusing most like a target would be, right? A core of addressable, targeted, advertising opportunities, and then almost radiating out into more broad offering kinds of things like, say, data-driven insights or, even programmatic television, which is more of an automated kind of thing, right? So that sounds a little different than most of the agency folk that we know, which kind of look at addressability as almost as an add-on or as an adjunct or as an extra after having done all the bigger stuff.
Absolutely. So I think of it a few ways. I'm trying to really push myself to do everything different than a normal agency would do. And I have that skill built up, so that takes a little effort on my part. And one of the things is I immediately announced that I'm doing this. This isn't baked, but I think going to market in a very open and honest and open way, so I can start to have conversation with everyone to build what I'm building, not build it and then announce it, I think is one of the things I'm trying to shift. Another thing, I think of it the couch out. So I think of what is the media that matters the most? And to me, sight, sound, and motion on the big TV set is the media that matters the most. And how can I build media plans from there out? And right now, a lot of digital players are building digital back to the couch. And so I'd like to think of TV as the first thought, not an afterthought.
So give me a sense of so what do you think then so we know how TV sellers kind of approach television marketplace, right? There's the premium ad sale, and then there's the DR thing at the other side, and there's sort of this mosh pit in between. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but is that a big, gooey space in between where things like addressability and better targeted advertising scenarios can play out and maybe be the allure for those, shall we call them, non-traditional television advertisers to start to play with some intensity?
Well, absolutely. I think of addressable as premium. So it's a very early game. I mean, with 1% of the inventory being addressable, it's hard to say where price will settle. And we were fortunate to start the addressable television marketplace off with satellite providers, who didn't have a local marketplace, so didn't have local CPMs. So if you look at their financial reports, they're getting a significant premium for addressable. So I think of addressable as premium. But there is some sales channel conflict that is coming that we're going to have to work through, whether it be from local cable or even over the top. So some of the online video CPMs coming over the top, Hulu would be one that comes to top of mind, and the CPMs that we're buying online video for versus addressable television, I think we're going to have some sales channel conflict there. But what is really great is that in all the addressable work that we've done, you can prove return on ad spend. And so we get asked the question a lot about, is addressable good for every advertiser? My answer is yes, it just depends on the price, right? So some categories are starting to get priced out of the marketplace. CPG, it's very hard if you're selling bleach and you make $5 a year on a loyal customer to justify addressable CPMs. So that will be up to the inventory sources to understand, where to price the marketplace. So it's really early to make, any kind of bets on where addressable should end, but I believe it's a premium product.
So if you have anything to do about it with Mattermore, right? Where is this 1% of today with, say, addressability going to be in 2 or 3 years? Say by the end, let's say the end of the decade. Will we be at 2%? Will we be at 10%? How inflective, shall we say, is the growth of this? And are there some forces that maybe are getting really closer to maybe making this a far bigger opportunity than it is, albeit today?
Well, there's definitely some forces at work in terms of distribution players that are getting ready to release product into the marketplace, Charter, so that could have a significant impact. We have other players, like a Comcast, who is rolling out linear, which will definitely increase supply. They clearly have a relationship on the content side that if they decide to light that up, which I believe is not that significant of a technical hurdle, so it's a business issue. But if that content owner would like to increase its price point, addressable is the way they are likely going to have to do it. And then we have another big provider who's in the talks of buying another big content owner. So, and then we have like a wild card of smart TVs. So I think maybe, technically unproven on whether you can replace an ad on a Samsung device. But okay, so if I wanted to get really bullish on the market, maybe we could get to 25% of the inventory being addressable by the end of the decade. But it's good that I'm not building a company on that, right? To me, that's the heart of it. But you have to be able to radiate out. You have to be able to, march through that transition as it comes about. You can't put all your eggs in the addressable basket if my company is to be successful.
But the kernel of all that is about targeting, right? And maybe it's not quote unquote addressable as we've defined it over the last 5 or 10 years, but addressable targeting in all these different video and television-like environments. That's a bigger basket of opportunity, right? And that doesn't sound like a 1% business to me. That sounds like a much bigger, yet still somewhat undefined, but to me it also feels like it's inevitable, right?
So the first question I asked myself is why? And then my second question was how. And so when I thought about how am I going to go about creating a new type of agency that makes the media matter more, I started with data. So data, whether it's targeting and collecting the best targeting data out there or measurement, is one of the key pillars. The other is delivery. So delivery is about addressability, but the data is about it all. It's about all media, television, and online and mobile and any screen you can imagine. Data is at the heart of the transformation for all ad placements. And then the second pillar is delivery. So in some cases, I will be able to deliver precisely and exactly with companies like an NVIDIA, right? With that technology that I can deliver straight to the household. But as that's catching up, data will be the key pillar. And that will drive significant value for the marketplace to make the media matter more.
Well, we all look forward to seeing how media matters more and your new company, so congratulations.
Thank you.